There you go.
Thanks so much. So welcome everybody to this Monday evening Maine Moment meditation where we just take 60 minutes to, think about our practice, if we have one in our Buddhist practice, and if we don't have a Buddhist practice, just to have some 60 minutes of peace and meditation and find our inner balance, our four immeasurable qualities that we practice called the Brahma Viharas, the four divine abodes that are really a foundation of Buddhist practice, but actually they're quite good human practices based on altruistic loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So let's begin the session by just taking a few breaths. Let's settle into this moment now, leaving anything that came up today, came up in prior moments, any kinds of struggles or thoughts, or even any kinds of joys and surprises that came. Just arrive fresh to this moment. Sitting nicely, whether you're sitting cross-legged on a cushion or in a chair, just check your posture, get your body nice and comfortable, align the spine nice and straight, and bring your attention into your body and check in with your sense of comfort and ease being embodied. So the spine is nice and straight, and we just find the position and the posture that can maintain a calm and effortless presence, sitting, listening to the practice, listening deeply to oneself, participating and allowing the breath to really expand our sense of ease. So the Buddha used the breath as a major focus of meditation because this is an object we always have with us. So we can use many objects of meditation. We have beautiful thangkas here in our shrine room. We can take our teachers, His Holiness the Dalai Lama or Khenzo Rinpoche or Jetsima Tenzin Palmo. We can take an image of the Buddha, but basically these require a lot of mental effort. And breath is a wonderful object because it's with us all the time. And it's a very more coarse kind of an object. We don't have to visualize it. We can experience it as it's moving. So the body's rising and falling as we breathe in, the body's filling with breath. As we breathe out, it's sinking and settling. And so the breath is with us every moment. And, whether we're sitting on our cushion or whether we're stopped in traffic, whether we're waiting in a doctor's office, whether we're waiting somewhere to meet a friend, or whether we're just by ourselves on a walk, we can always come back to our breath. And in the end, at the end of this, the appearances of this life, our breath will be there as a very solid and stable focus as well. So that when we're taking our last breaths, we can be very calm in our body and very calm in our mind. And we can come back to the breath, allowing ourselves through practice, through this kind of training, to find a refuge within our own awareness and with using the breath as anchoring ourselves, anchoring this awareness. So just calmly fill the body up with the in-breath, relax the belly in your good posture, let the muscles and all the flesh relax. Think of the skeleton as like scaffolding or the inner structure of a building where everything else that's built around it now, all the flesh and muscles are just relaxed and the body's just effortlessly balanced. So when we breathe in, the tip of the tongue's on the roof of the mouth behind the palate, the fleshy part and the teeth, gently resting there. Relax the jaw, relax the lips, and breathe in through the nose deeply. And as you breathe in, expand the whole body. So when we breathe in, we're really inhaling lots and lots of breath everywhere into the body, letting the diaphragm below the belly button, about 4 fingers, fill with breath. And really sending that breath everywhere down throughout the whole body. You can imagine it going down into the feet, right out of the soles of the feet. Energizing every cell, relaxing, filling all the space. And as you breathe out, just sinking and settling. And as you breathe out, use the mouth now on the out breath to just exhale the sound, ah, like the sense of, when you sit down after laboring for a good day in your garden or cutting wood or carrying something or building something. The way someone who has worked physically all day would sit down after completing a very satisfying task physically and just exhaling, with a sense of ease and satisfaction, like, oh, that's wonderful. Everything's completed. Now is the time to just be satisfied and rest. So breathing in again, and this time following the breath up through the nose, and visualize it over the top of the forehead, over the top of the head, over the crown and the back of the skull, the back of the neck, and then into the front underneath the chin. And visualize it moving as you breathe in down the front of the body, all the way into the diaphragm, and then filling up from below. And then it fills up from below and fills the whole body. It expands the rib cage, expands the back, and the shoulders are relaxed. Everything softens. And when you cannot breathe in any longer, don't force it. Just gently now let it release, turn it around. Again with an exhale. Sinking and settling. If you've had a really stressful day, then it can be can really use the voice and the sound of which is the throat seed syllable in Tibetan Buddhism, which represents emptiness, spaciousness, shunyata. And there's a sense of joy in that sound. And again, another nice deep breath up through the nostrils as you sip the breath in, then up over the forehead, the top of the head, over the crown. You're visualizing this breath moving down the back of the head. Then it comes to the front of the body, under the chin, down the front of the spine, into the diaphragm. Then it starts building up from below in the diaphragm, below the belly button. You feel everything getting large and expansive as you breathe in. It fills up through the front of the body, the back of the body. Then when you can no longer inhale, gently exhale. And you can rest the tongue on the roof of the mouth again, and now exhale through the nose and let everything sink and settle, becoming more spacious, more light, more expansive. And now a few settling breaths to call to mind our practice. In Buddhism, we begin every practice by going for refuge. And in Tibetan Buddhism, by going for refuge and calling to mind Bodhichitta, which is the mind of awakening. So the whole goal of Vajrayana Buddhist practice. Bodhichitta means in Sanskrit, Bodhi is mind. Bodhi is awakening, and mind is chitta, or the mind of awakening, enlightenment. And in Tibetan, Jangchup Sem, the mind of awakening, the mind of enlightenment. Jangchup is enlightenment and Sem is mind. This is the whole goal of our practice. And we are going to bring to mind going for refuge. And we now can visualize our teacher or the Buddha. If you can't visualize, don't worry about that. Bring to mind a very bright light, rainbow lights or bright clear light, about the arm's length in front of you, at the level of your forehead, in between your eyebrows. Very small, the size of a thumb, very bright. Anything that represents this mind of enlightenment for you, you can take as an image. If you don't have a root teacher, you can use His Holiness the Dalai Lama. You can bring to mind an image of the Buddha that you love, or a lotus flower. But this image should be made out of clear light, very translucent. So now, bringing this image to mind, we're going to take refuge. And refuge means safety and protection. So in our tradition, we say that we are practicing and training in developing these qualities of the mind of enlightenment. And in order to do this, we're following the path of Dharma. The teachings of the Buddha are our true refuge. Of course, the Buddha is no longer here with us in person, but he was here 2,600 years ago. And the main thing that he left for all of his followers to be able to attain what he attained, full enlightenment, is the Dharma. It's a path. It's the teachings that lead us to cultivating and developing all the qualities, the beautiful, wonderful, altruistic qualities of Bodhichitta, the awakened mind. So this is what we're doing when we take refuge. So we'll say the first two opening lines in Tibetan, and then we'll say the third in English to generate this refuge, the safety and protection that we gain from our own practice. Sangye chodan soki chognam la jangchu bardu dagni kyapsu chi dagi jinso ki pe sognam ki drula penchir sangye trupar sho. Sangye chodan soki chognam la jangchu bardu dagni kyapsu chi dagi jinso ki pe sognam ki Drola Penchir Sangye Drupar Shok. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, until enlightened, I seek refuge through merit from giving and the rest to aid all. May I become Buddha. And then we're going to say these four immeasurable prayers, that these are four immeasurable qualities. They're immeasurable because, like sentient beings are immeasurable, there's immeasurable life forms just on this one small planet alone, let alone in all the universes. And likewise, as they wish to have happiness and joy, compassion and equanimity, the same way we do, these qualities are immeasurable in the sense that they can be developed immeasurably for the happiness and the benefit of all sentient beings. So again, we'll say this the first time. This one we'll say once in Tibetan and twice in English. Semchen tamche de wadang de we gyudan dem part gyur chi. Semchen tamche dugnel gi gyudang drel ward gyur chi. Semchen tamche dugnel me pe de wadang mi drel ward gyur chi. Semchen tamche ne ring chandang ni dang drelwe tang nyom la ne part gyur chi. And in English, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. So now, before we go into our meditation for tonight's short Dharma talk on these beautiful themes of the awakening mind and these four immeasurable qualities, I mean, really, who wouldn't want those, right? This is the whole point. Just as we ourselves want happiness, would never want suffering, just as we ourselves always benefit from compassionate attitude towards oneself, as well as receiving the compassionate attitude towards others. This is why everyone loves to be around His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. You know, he just exudes compassion. He just exudes happiness. He just, a few days ago, came out on March 18th after 2 years, his temple in Dharamsala opened up, and he came live and hosted all the Tibetan refugee community, as well as all the monastic Sangha that's around, and gave a teaching for over an hour in person, totally fine, healthy, saying he was going to forego his annual trip down to Delhi for his health check, because he knows he's fine and fit. His Tibetan doctors know he's fine and fit, and that he knows he'll be around here guiding us for the next decade, at least, he said. His aim is 2 decades. So, you know, this is the kind of benefit that the sacred practice brings to oneself. Is now this summer he'll be 87, and he is walking fine, he's joking, he's clear as a bell when he teaches. So this is our wonderful example of how the Dharma manifests through our practice. So tonight we're going to share a little bit of reading on how things exist and teachings on emptiness. And emptiness is really too profound for the short amount of time that we have this evening to really cover it. But it is the foundation as well of our practice in Vajrayana Tibetan Buddhism. And this is a meditation on emptiness. But first, we just do a little bit of reading from this beautiful book that's put out by the FPMT, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, How Things Exist, Teachings on Emptiness. This is from chapter 3, from the Lam Rim and Meditation on Emptiness. The essence of the teaching of the Buddha is the Four Noble Truths, which are contained in this one verse. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Now, this particular verse is right up on the wall behind His Holiness's throne in his main temple in Dharamsala. So I always pay close attention when I'm in the temple to see what are the verses His Holiness has instructed the monks to put up, because this is his seat in his main teaching throne now, where he's giving all the teachings from the world. And this one is right up behind his throne as you face it to the right. And so this is a very profound and important instruction for us to all really deeply embody in our practice. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. So what's very clear here is, where do we have to start? This isn't saying go out and convert the world to Buddhist teachings. It's not saying that we have to save the world and turn everyone into Buddhists. It's not saying we have to save the environment or look at political activities. Not at all. The Buddha is saying first we have to subdue our own mind. And as monastics, when we're training, this means we have to look at what is it we need to subdue. Generally, we talk about 3 main poisons that our mind falls under the influence of. These are where non-virtue might arise. The first is from ignorance, meaning bad habits, old habits that we repeat without realizing that we're in the habit. This could be criticism of others, it could be judgment, it could be impatient, could be anger, could be desire, lust, greed, jealousy, pride, conceit. All these grow from ignorance. Ignorance is the first difficulty. The second one is ego. It's a selfishness, a self-cherishing desire that only wants to take care of I, me, and mine. What's most important to my body, what's most important to my happiness, what's most important to my family or my community or people who think like me. It's this very egoic, very limited concern that creates a lot of problems, a lot of suffering. The Buddha called this desire, attachment, selfishness, greed. And then that leads to the third poison, which is when we can't get what we want for this kind of I, it is frustrated and it leads to aversion. It leads to a duality of separation. The ones we don't like, the anger, the hatred, the attachment, the judgment of those who we separate out, who are not like me, or who are preventing me from getting happiness. It's somebody else's fault. So the Buddha said these 3 main problems of ignorance, attachment, and hatred are kind of the main causes of all of our suffering. And they don't exist out there. They're habits and reactions that we've developed within our own mind stream through long time of misperceiving the true way things exist. And the Buddha said the way things really exist is in emptiness. This means they don't exist as a separate I over here and you over there, the way we tend to perceive them. Really, if we look deeply, the concerns of my own happiness are exactly the same, and exactly the same wish to the concerns you have for your own happiness. How we might get there are different ways, but the similarity and the sameness comes from that we're both human beings. Despite whatever appearance we have the same kind of organs inside of our body. We have the same number of fingers and toes, essentially. We have the same kind of appearance of a body with a heart, with lungs, legs, arms, eyes, ears, nose. Basically, human beings, despite their skin tone, their gender, any other superficial kind of thing, are the same kind of creature. We're the Homo sapiens. And so we should start with that as the foundation of sameness. And the things that we want for ourselves are the same. We want happiness. We don't want suffering. We benefit from compassion. We don't benefit from hatred. We appreciate having joy. We don't really feel good when people are envious and jealous. We definitely grow with serenity and peace of mind, where an environment is not overruled by strong hatred and aversion and strong attachment and desire that selfishly is trying to get its own way, which is basically the cause of war. So, the Buddha looked at this and said, first of all, the number one thing is from these three poisons, don't give in to any of them. So don't perform any actions that are based out of ignorance, based on strong selfish desire, or based on hatred and anger. Basically he's saying you've got to check up on your mind and see where do you still fall under these kinds of struggles. And what we have to do instead is perform perfect virtuous actions, which means instead of ignorance, we need to replace ignorance with wisdom, seeing how things really exist, seeing what really is beneficial. And instead of selfish desire and greed that wants just for myself, we have to practice generosity. We have to practice giving. We have to practice non-attachment. We have to use that wisdom to see the benefits of not only helping myself, but all beings attain happiness, all beings attain compassion, loving kindness, joy, and equanimity. That if every being were living with these qualities, my own needs would be automatically satisfied, because I'd be living in an environment saturated with love, saturated with compassion, saturated with joy, and saturated with an equanimity which provides these equally for all beings. So how do we do this? Now he's telling us this is how you have to do it. Subdue your own mind thoroughly. Subdue means practice the Dharma. It means subdue through training your mind to develop these qualities immeasurably. That's what these four immeasurables are, is the capacity to keep in mind what is of benefit, what is of virtue, how should we carry our body, our speech, and our mind. And then doing that, we're much more quickly able to see when non-virtues kind of creeping up, judgment, envy, strong opinions. We can meet that with wisdom. We can meet that with ethics. And we can meet that by practicing the Dharma really in selflessness, the true way that is the way to bring happiness for oneself and others equally with equanimity. So this is the teaching of the Buddha, meaning this is the foundational goal that the Buddha wanted us to arrive at, was to subdue our mind thoroughly. And this is not easy, as we know. I mean, it's much easier to run around saying we've got to change the world and we've got to do this and this and this and that, instead of looking deeply at what we need to do, which is the big work, changing ourselves. We each know that, but it's possible. And this is wonderful. And this is why the Buddha gave this as the second noble truth, is that things are impermanent, which means we can change. We know that. We've been changing our whole lives. We've been learning different skills, learning to talk nicely, learning our profession, learning art, learning music, learning to drive a car, learning to eat. with a fork and knife or chopsticks, learning to use the potty by ourselves since we're children. We can learn. That's the beauty of being a human being. We can train our minds. And this is the Buddha saying to us, look at this realistically. This is not something, I'm not telling you to do something impossible. Practicing the Dharma is possible all the way up to Buddhahood. So this meditation on impermanence is calling us now to remember the essence of what the next verse says, which is to remember how the self, how our actions, objects, friends, enemies, strangers, our body, and our possessions are transitory in nature. So yesterday we'd have our book club on the transcendental wisdom of the Prajnaparamita, of the Heart Sutra. Transitory means everything's moving, everything's changing, nothing's static, everything's dynamic. And they change in a nanosecond, in a finger snap, it says in the text. Within every second through causes and conditions. And because of that, they can also stop at any time, meaning this life that we've taken, this life appearances, we know that death will come, that the end of this life, the end of this body will come, and we don't know when it will come. And the Buddha also said, therefore practice as if today is your last chance to practice. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama says every morning when he wakes up, he thinks, how wonderful I woke up today. And we should all think that way. We don't know how long we have to live a life. His Holiness says, yes, he believes he'll have 10 years in his own health to still be here guiding us, following the Dharma, teaching the Dharma. But for each of us, we should then likewise think, well, today I have life, I have a human life, and wonderful. So we don't get bogged down by bad news, by fears, by concerns. The Buddha talked about this time that we're alive in as the age of degeneration, that there would be epidemics, there would be wars, that lifespan would be decreasing. We see these things happening. We don't have to be depressed by them at all. Now, on the contrary, we should feel like, excellent. Now I know why I need to practice the Dharma, because this is the way the samsara is. You know, it gives us a good example of the need to wake up, the need to purify and establish ourselves in loving kindness, in compassion, and joy, and equanimity, and give up all those fears, give up all those three attachments of the poisons of ignorance, selfish desire, and anger. So it's not worthwhile to get angry. So we can see this, because to have a dissatisfied mind of desire, or to give rise to wrong conceptions, such as the concept of permanence, things not changing, things being solid, that nothing will ever get better, nothing ever changes. These are wrong thoughts. This is called a wrong view in Buddhist practice. We, as I mentioned already, we know things change. All the time they're changing. The thing is, are we aware of changing them in the direction that is of ultimate benefit to oneself and to others? That's the main thing. Things are always going to change, but it's our own mind that by changing and cultivating the mind into the direction of positive change, beneficial change, that actually transforms not only one's own life, but the environment around one. So change is happening, and the way we bring about virtuous change is by paying attention and waking up. Just this is why mindfulness, not mindfulness as it's really practiced far and wide now in the kind of Western mindfulness, there's nothing wrong with that, but within the cultivating of the Buddhist practice of the Dharma, mindfulness is talking about paying attention to all the virtuous qualities that help one wake up. Of course, it brings happiness, brings much more satisfaction, much more intention to our body, speech, and mind. So virtue is naturally flowing out of us, and this non-virtue is eventually purified. Of course, it brings wonderful benefit, but it's not mindfulness of how to be more efficient at work, or how to be a better environmental consumer, or how to be more mindful about how much time you spend on your smartphone every day. It really has nothing to do with that. I mean, those things could be helpful to ask you, is this helping me get closer to enlightenment? I mean, if you bring it back to the mindfulness within the practice, mindfulness here, the Buddha is really talking about is, are you mindful of your true nature, of your clear light mind? That's our inherent essence. This is the kind of mindfulness the Buddha is asking. within the practice for us to turn within and to identify, really. And we do that through mindfulness and through awareness. First, we have to hear that there is kind of this awakened mind nature that we have as a capacity within us. And then we have to become mindful of cultivating it, as we do during our meditation, as we do by listening now to the Dharma. And then in meditation with awareness, doing activities through our sitting meditation as we're in a formal practice session, and then doing activities through our body, speech, and mind during our day-to-day, because our practice is the whole day, 24 hours, 7 days a week, whether we're moving through the world, whether we're sitting down, whether we're eating, whether we're lying down to go to sleep. And even in our dreams, we can make our dream states a mindful practice. We can train our minds to all the time have this sense of awareness. So we look at this sense that how do things exist? They're not static, they're not permanent, they're transitory in nature. Our bodies are changing, our states of mind are changing, our emotions are changing. And so we become aware of that, we accept that things are fluid, they're changeable. We're not afraid of things changing. We're not trying to stop them from changing. We're just trying to become skillful in the flow of the change, of the groove and flow of going with a change in the direction that's towards virtue. So in that sense, we're directing that flow. We're not just going with the flow. It's not like just, oh, whatever's going on, we're just okay with that. We're making a conscious choice with awareness. What is of benefit through ethical, moral decisions with our body, speech, and mind, only ourselves. We're not morally needing to judge the rest of the world, because that's the rest of the world's job to take account for what they're doing with their body, speech, and mind. Just through our own body, speech, and mind. Is my body calm and peaceful? I'm not killing, I'm not stealing, I'm not engaging in sexual misconduct. As a monastic, I'm maintaining my celibacy vows. As a lay person, it means I'm not getting involved with someone who's already committed in another relationship. So it doesn't mean anything about what you do with mutual consent with your partners in sexual connection. That's between those two people, or how many, whatever these days people are into. That has to just be open and mutual. But the Buddha here is saying the highest virtue actually is the monastics of celibacy with the body, because we're not going to harm anybody. We're not going to be emotionally entangled with anybody. We're not going to be engaged in sexual activity where sexual transmitted diseases might come up. I mean, there are many things in sexual celibacy of not being engaged on that level physically that actually provide protection to others. We're not creating broken hearts in others' beings and their mind streams. So there are many ways that being a monastic is a higher call to this kind of protection by how we use our bodies. So not killing, not stealing, maintaining celibacy as lay people, not killing, not stealing, and being very ethical in your sexual engagements that you're part of, being very open and honest in them. Then there are 4 of speech. So non-virtue would be lying, using divisive speech, meaning creating divisions between people, whether that's political parties or opinions about religions or opinions about kind of anything that separates people, by using your speech to argue. And then not using harsh speech, so not using swear words, not using critical words, not using anger that's underneath your speech or judgment. And then the 4th one is not engaging in gossip, so not repeating things that you've heard and just spreading around stories. And the antidotes, the virtues for those would be, instead of lying, always be truthful. Instead of harsh speech, instead of divisive speech, use unifying speech. Find commonality that is actually something beneficial to both sides. So if it's a really heated argument between 2 different groups, someone brought this up recently when I was teaching in the Bahamas, when we were talking about people who chose to get COVID shots, protections, and chose not to, that the commonality was that both groups were trying to do what they thought was best for themselves based on feeling that their life was precious. People who didn't want to get the shot thought that it maybe would harm them in some way. people who wanted the shot thought that it would help them in some way. And what got lost in between was the arguments about who was right and who was wrong. And this doesn't help anybody. Of course, slowly, we could look at science and we could try to use reason and rationality to help people eventually come around to understanding that maybe it was beneficial to get the shot. But initially, there's no sense in getting angry and getting animosity towards those who are making a decision, because they're also trying to decide based on what was making sense for them, because they also value their life and don't want to be sick and don't want to be harmed. People who took the shot, they made that same decision to take the shot based on the same grounds, that it would help their life and keep them and keep others safe. So we have to, hold more space for reason and understanding, and then eventually to still look at the science and try to say, but look, actually we can see now that people who didn't get the shot were much more affected. Their death rate was much higher. Even people themselves who were in the hospitals were testifying, oh, I really wish I had gotten this, and not judging them, but really praying for them and with compassion saying, may you be free, may you be happy, may you take a higher rebirth, and may beings learn now to value the rationality of science, which can help us see what's of highest benefit to the greatest good. But the judgments don't help. So that kind of dividing speech is not good. And the Buddha was saying this also for the monastics, not arguing whose view on the Buddha Dharma is the highest. I mean, we debate, but we do it with good fun. We try to disprove views that are not the highest view against each other, just to sharpen our own minds. But we're not really proud or feeling like, haha, I got one over on you from that one. We're just doing it to train. And at the end, it's a helpful thing. It's not really an anger or aggressive kind of debate. And then not using harsh speech. Of course, no one likes to hear that. When Tenzin Rinpoche would talk about this, he'd say, think of someone's face when they're angry, it gets red and they get really looking like, it's really ugly to see, actually. I mean, it's kind of funny. You can't laugh at someone when they're angry like that, but their face really doesn't look very nice. But if your mind is trained, you can be calm in the face of, if you're face to face with someone like that, you can maintain what Atisha called, he said, when there's difficulties, remain like a piece of wood, which means you don't react. Your mind is actually able to see that that person is not always that way, but because their mind has gone under the influence of anger, they're completely disturbed. Their emotion, their mental afflictions have arisen. Don't join them there. So maintain noble silence in that moment. And that really helps that person's mind calm down. So instead of harsh speech, we say, have kind speech, have very skillful speech. Know when right is the right moment to speak or the right moment to stay in noble silence. And this takes training. This takes practice. But it's an other-oriented goal, because just like oneself, they want happiness too. So if someone's really riled up and angry, it's a very compassionate gesture to just be able to stay calm and not argue with them, not join them in that anger. And it's very skillful to see it's their anger habit that's upsetting them. It's not who they are as a person. And this is very important. We often just gloss that over and we say, that person, I don't like them. They're angry. They're always untruthful. We judge like as if all these habits are who that person is. And the Buddha said, sorry, dear, you missed the point. Everyone's got Buddha nature. Who that person is really a Buddha. They just don't know it. They're clouded over by habits. Maybe they never heard of the Buddha Dharma. Maybe they have no training in ethics. Maybe they have no respect for the wisdom of following this kind of ethical guidance. But instead of feeling angry at them and judgmental of them, how about developing some wisdom in your own heart and mind? How about developing some compassion, some deep insight, so that you can see it's their habits that have led to those unhappy states of mind that they themselves are the victim of. That's it. And don't join them. You can stay very calm and think, well, would I want a mind like that? No, I wouldn't. Thank you very much. I'm going to follow the Buddha Dharma. This is the beauty of the Dharma. We're really lucky to have a practice, really lucky to have teachings, really lucky to have meditation, and also wisdom guidance that we can hear, we can follow, and we can continue on. And so then with gossiping, we don't join in with gossiping. We don't listen too much to the modern media news. We stay informed with what's going on in the greater picture, but we don't spend a lot of time forming our own opinions and arguing about what's going on. We learn to discern what is the best way to live our own lives. And in the meantime, if we hear gossip, if someone comes to us with stories, yada, 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 we just maintain noble silence, or we skillfully redirect the conversation. But we don't join in we don't join in gossip. So as a monastic living in monastic communities, which are very tight, very small, sometimes we're 3 or 4 to a room. If we always gossiped about each other, we would have a very miserable community, a very miserable sangha. And so it's not allowed. It's a practice that monastics won't engage in. And it creates a very beautiful, harmonious environment, therefore. So being mindful of the nature of the self. Now, this is the third of the mind. So non-virtue of the mind means we don't have jealousy and pride and conceit. We don't have harmful thoughts like, I can't wait till that one gets theirs, and I can't wait till their karma ripens, their bad karma comes back around. That's wrong thinking, Buddha said. That's very negative states of mind. And then the third of the mind is don't hold wrong views. So wrong views would be thinking everything's static, it doesn't change, it's permanent, that someone who's a friend will always be my friend, or someone who I label as an enemy has always been an enemy, and that all the other people who are neutral, the other nearly 8 billion I never think about, I won't know them. It's the wisdom that sees actually everyone changes. A friend can become a stranger can become an enemy can become a friend can become a stranger again, a stranger can become a neutral person. These are very fluid categories. We can just think back 70 years when the US was at war with Germany and Japan, and today Germany and Japan are 2 of the US's biggest allies. Things change like that. So we have to remember that that's the true nature of the reality. So being mindful that the nature of self, so then the 3 virtuous states of mind, instead of being envious and jealous, be rejoicing for others' happiness. If someone's got really lovely karma, really wonderful capacity to bring virtue and activities to this whole world of benefit, rejoice for them that they're there, that they're part of this life, that they have those good fortune to be able to share in what they are experiencing as happiness. You know, you can think like this: what if everyone's happiness was my happiness? How wonderful, then no need for jealousy and envy. You just rejoice all the time because someone's happy somewhere every moment of the day. So just rejoice instead of being jealous. And instead of holding harmful states of mind, wrong, jealous, negative states of mind, cultivate all the positive ones, the altruistic loving kindness, altruistic compassion, altruistic joy, and altruistic even-mindedness, serenity. Because oneself benefits and all others benefit. That's the main reason. You can see that it's a win-win. And then instead of the wrong views, we have to cultivate what the Buddha called right views. Seeing this true nature, this being mindful of the true nature of self, action, object, and all of these other things are transitory. They're all very fluid. And if we think of this quantum physics, we see that the nature of reality is very changing. The way we see things and the way they exist are 2 different things. So this being able to see that things are very fluid and soft brings tranquility into our mind. It protects our mind. It protects us from disturbing thoughts and wrong conceptions. And it protects us from all harmful thoughts and actions, which are karma. Karma is just a Sanskrit word that means thoughts, actions. And so in this way, we're protected from that which harms us and other sentient beings, and we cultivate that which helps us and helps other sentient beings. When we live our life with the concept of permanence and other mistaken thoughts, we look at things in a way that is contradictory to reality, a way in which they do not exist. So living like this brings confusion and thousands of problems into our life. It's living in a state of confusion. So meditation on impermanence in everyday life, in other words, awareness of the reality of these things, is essential. It is the basis for happiness and peace of mind and the best protection for our life. So now we're going to do a meditation on these four immeasurable qualities. And just sitting and bringing to mind a deep, deep commitment to cultivate our own capacity to develop these in our heart mind. So mind in Tibetan Buddhism, mind in our tradition is not mind here. Often if I'm teaching in the West, I ask people, where do you think of as mind? And some people will say like this, but most people point here. And if I ask that question when I'm teaching in the East, in India or Taiwan, or when I was in Hong Kong, where is mind? People will say here. Or in Australia, I asked, people will say here, because they're feeling a little bit more the sense of embodied heart mind presence. And so we want mind to be a feeling, intuitive, as well as a rational knowing state. And we can, as Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo says, in the West, we need to pull things from the head into the heart. So this meditation, we're pulling down deeply into our heart. And if you'd like, Tara Brach does this meditation, and I'd like to tribute this to her because she's the person I saw doing this. And as a great Western teacher of the Dharma, if you feel you need these qualities to become more embodied in yourself, you can cover your heart mind like this to remind yourself to keep this warm bodhicitta, this warm heart of enlightenment here in this, located in this area of your own being. So you can sit like this during this meditation if it's helpful. So bringing again to mind, as we did for refuge, the guide, the enlightened, the symbol of the enlightened mind, whether it's your teacher or Buddha or a lotus flower or just a bright, beautiful, glowing light, whatever it is for you, that is the representative of the awakened mind, full of altruistic loving kindness, full of altruistic compassion, full of altruistic joy. And altruistic in this sense means selflessness. It means seeing that one's own wishes and all the wishes of all other life are the same, and wanting that for them selflessly, equally. We bring that awakened presence in front of ourselves now through our own inner awareness. If it's helpful, close your eyes and bring this to mind about an arm's length in front of you, at the level of your forehead, size of a thumb, so small and bright and made of light. This is the way we are trained in our tradition to do our meditations. And if it's your teacher or the Shakyamuni Buddha, you can let them gaze right at you, looking right at you, heart to heart, smiling, sending all of their love, all of their blessings, all of their happiness and confidence in you to train all the way up to awaken for your own happiness and for the happiness of all mother beings. And on your next in-breath, you just bring in the loving, immeasurable wish. How wonderful if I and all sentient beings had happiness and its causes. And then you breathe out and gently relax. And on your next in-breath, you bring in this powerful wish. May we have happiness and its causes. On your third in-breath, you make this noble pledge. I myself will cause myself and all sentient beings to have happiness and its causes. And on your next in-breath, please, Guru Deity, grant your blessings that I may be able to do this. So in this sense, a Guru Deity, in our text, Lama Yidam, it says. Lama Yidam, Lama is the teacher, and the Yidam is the form of the teacher in an enlightened aspect. It could be as Shakyamuni Buddha, it could be as Aryatara, could be as Manjushri or Medicine Buddha. It could be as the Tantra Buddha Vajradhara. So it's just an enlightened representation, a symbol of the enlightened mind. That's a Yidam, or in this sense, Guru Deity. And now when we say, please, let's say, Lama Yidam, grant your blessings that I may be able to do this, we visualize beautiful light streaming from the heart of that guide, or from the bright light directly coming to the crown of our head and coming straight down and merging with our own heart mind, right at this center here. Filling us up, infusing us with sacred, blessed energy of the enlightened mind, touching our body, speech, and mind. And we're breathing in and out now, just really marinating in this loving kindness and happiness. And now on our next in-breath, let's bring in immeasurable compassion. So on the next in-breath, with the thought, how wonderful if I and all sentient beings were free from suffering and its causes. On the out-breath, relaxing, feeling compassion for oneself. And on the next in-breath, with a sacred wish, may we be free from suffering and its causes. And on the next in-breath, setting the sacred intention, I myself will cause myself and all sentient beings to be free of suffering and its causes. And on the fourth in-breath, please, Lama Yidam, grant your blessings that I may be able to do this. And then visualizing the divine light coming to the crown of one's head and coming and infusing one's heart mind with the enlightened energy of the awakened mind, growing it within oneself with these qualities to be able to do this, to be able to bring immeasurable compassion for oneself and all living beings. And now again, just sitting and absorbing this beautiful power and energy of compassion, limitless compassion for oneself and for all others, rejoicing in it, feeling inspired by it. And now on the next in-breath, we develop the third immeasurable quality of joy. On the in-breath, how wonderful if I and all sentient beings always lived in boundless joy. On the out-breath, smiling to oneself, largely, deeply, with joy. On the next in-breath, the sacred wish, may we always live in boundless joy. The next in-breath, the sacred commitment, intention, I myself will cause myself and all others to live in boundless joy. And the fourth in-breath, please, Lama Yidam, grant your blessings that I may be able to do this, and visualizing this beautiful, pure light of awakened energy infusing through the crown of one's head, touching one's heart center and mind, infusing with joy. And if you're not feeling particularly joyful in this very moment, His Holiness often says when he's at a conference and someone looks very serious, he tickles them. So you can imagine His Holiness tickling you at the side or wherever your ticklish spot is, so that you can remember your essence and capacity for joy. And now sitting for this moment in this buoyancy of joy, feeling enveloped by it. And now we come to the fourth immeasurable quality of equanimity or serenity, peace of mind. Breathing in, how wonderful if I and all sentient beings were to live in equanimity, free from the bias of strong attachment and strong aversion or strong hatred. The next in-breath, may we live in equanimity, free from bias of strong attachment and strong hatred. Next in-breath, I myself will cause myself and all others to live in equanimity, free of bias of strong attachment and strong hatred. And the request for the blessing, next in-breath, please, Lama Yidam, grant your blessings that I might be able to do this. And then visualizing the enlightened mind, the enlightened blessing energies coming to the crown of one's head, merging deeply with one's own heart mind, infusing one with this sense of equanimity, of peace of mind, of a cool-headedness and even-heartedness. That's not cold, but that's very awake, wise, unbiased, sincere in the wish to bring everybody this serenity and peace of mind without judgment, without exclusion, without holding some near and dear and others far and distant. And rest in this sense of equanimity. This peace of mind. and serenity. So let's come out of the meditation now. We're already at our hour mark in our practice this evening. But if you like to use this meditation for a longer time to sit with it, now it's recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel. Atashi Getzeling will be posted later this week, and you can always go back to it and refer to it and then sit longer as you have the time and wish to stay with these qualities. But please practice them and keep developing them, because really, if we think about it, it has not much to do with being a Buddhist. These are 4 qualities that all human beings can embody and embrace and develop endlessly. And this is what we need right now, the world to wake up to these beautiful qualities of human nature and to spread them far and wide, but starting in one's own intention, motivation, and dedication. So I just, before we dedicate our merits, will invite everybody who's able to tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook streaming live. I will be part of a dialogue with the Geshe-la Dorje Damdul to commemorate and remember the wonderful life of the Master Thich Nhat Hanh. We'll have an hour of remembering his qualities, his message, and the wonderful way he was able to transform the most difficult situations amidst the Vietnam War through his Dharma practice. So if you're able to join us, please do. And if you're not able to, we'll try to post that session on our website as well, so that people can enjoy and benefit from it. And, may your practice continue to grow and continue to bring benefit to oneself and to others. And now we'll dedicate our long life prayers for our teachers and giving away the merits of our practice to every living being everywhere to be able to grow these qualities endlessly. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig remain in life till samsara's end. In particular, I pray for the one who knows all the scriptures with the power of his intelligence, to have a long life through the solid strength of his mind and his mastery of life, in order to benefit the teachings and all beings through his good, wholehearted resolve. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha's state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Mig me se we ter chen chen resi. Di me kien pe wang po cham pel yang. Gang chen ke pe su gen son kapa. Lo sang drak pe shabla so wade. So thank you, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful week. And if you're interested in helping support Tashi Getzeling, or if you'd like to get on our mailing list, please send an email to us at tglmaine@gmail.com, and welcome.